For nearly 2 decades, Saddam Hussein was the most feared man in the world. He ruled Iraq through assassinations, torture, and public executions. His name alone could silence a room. But for the people of Iraq, there was someone they feared even more. Someone even Saddam couldn't control. His eldest son, Uday.
He was meaner, he was more vicious than his father ever was. He took the level of viciousness to new heights. Is that a pretty true statement?
No, he passed his father.
Saddam used violence as a political tool. It was calculated, strategic, always with a purpose. Uday used it for fun.
He allows his eldest son to be a killer, to be a thief, to be a torturer, to be a rapist. This is not possible in any democratic country. It is not possible in most dictatorships.
He tortured athletes for losing football matches.
We believe that hundreds of athletes have been tortured and as many as 50 athletes have been killed.
He shot a soldier dead on the street because he didn't like the way he saluted. He had women kidnapped from their own weddings. He searched the internet for new ways to hurt people, and he never faced a single consequence. His cruelty was so extreme that some Iraqis would later say Saddam Hussein was far more human than his own son. And he was so powerful, so untouchable, that he forced another man to become his body double, surgically altered to look exactly like him, sent to military rallies, political conferences, and even war zones in his place, just so Uday could stay home and do whatever he wanted. The man trapped in that role would witness horrors that would haunt him for the rest of his life. This is the story of Uday Hussein, the most hated man in Iraq. June 18th, 1964. Uday Hussein was born in Baghdad. 4 months later, his father Saddam was thrown in prison for his role in the Ba'ath Party, a political movement that had been trying to seize power in Iraq for years. Even as an infant, Uday played a part in his father's cause. When his mother visited the prison, she smuggled maps, messages, and even bullets hidden inside Uday's diapers. In 1966, Saddam escaped, but freedom didn't bring him home. He spent his days bouncing between safe houses, planning the next power grab with other Ba'athist members. He'd disappear for weeks at a time while Uday, his mother, and his younger brother Qusay lived like any other family in Baghdad. Then, on July 17, 1968, everything changed. The Ba'ath Party overthrew the government. Saddam, who had helped organize the whole thing, became part of the country's new ruling authority. Overnight, the Husseins went from a modest house in the suburbs to government luxury compounds with unlimited money and unlimited power. Uday graduated with top marks, not because he earned them, because no teacher in Iraq was going to fail the son of one of the most powerful men in the country. But the real education came at home. In 1979, Saddam forced Iraq's president to step down and took total control. He'd been in power for less than a week when he called his fellow Ba'ath Party members to a meeting in a theater hall in Baghdad. When they arrived, they were told a plot to overthrow the new president had been uncovered, and the guilty parties were in this room. Saddam took the stage, lit a Cuban cigar, and started reading names. One by one, men were told to stand, recite the party slogan, and leave the room. Nobody told them what was waiting on the other side of that door. One man stood up and shouted, "Me? I haven't done anything." Saddam didn't even look at him. The man lowered his head and walked out. 68 names were called. In the days that followed, 22 of them were executed by their own party members. Saddam made sure the firing squads were made up of Ba'athists, not soldiers, not professionals, colleagues, because he wanted everyone to be complicit. Outside, thousands of Iraqis gathered for a staged demonstration, chanting praises for their new president while the executions were carried out. Uday was 15, and he had a front row seat. Before he turned 18, he and Qusay had witnessed interrogations, torture sessions, and executions up close in person. The two brothers watched the same violence, but they took very different lessons from it. Qusay learned to use it, quietly, efficiently, only when it served a purpose. But Uday didn't just learn to use it, he learned to enjoy it. That enjoyment didn't stay behind closed doors for long. At 19, Uday was at a party thrown for Iraq's elite. He spotted a woman he liked and asked her to dance. She wasn't alone. Her husband, a military officer, was standing right next to her. He politely declined Uday's invitation, told him his wife shouldn't dance with another man. But Uday wouldn't accept no for an answer. Uday hit him, then kept hitting him in front of dozens of people. Nobody moved. Nobody said a word. After all, he was Saddam's son. When the officer stopped moving, Uday told his bodyguards to drag him out. The music started again, people went back to their drinks. The officer died from his injuries a few days later, but nothing happened to Uday, and it wouldn't be the last time. A few months later, Uday was walking down a busy street in Baghdad when an army officer saluted him. Uday didn't think the salute was respectful enough, so he pulled out a pistol and shot the man dead, right there on the pavement in front of everyone. Again, nothing happened. He even used his friends as retrievers when he went hunting, instead of dogs, and if they complained, he'd fire at them. Instead of punishment, Uday got rewards. In 1984, after getting a degree in engineering, Saddam made him chairman of the Iraqi Olympic Committee and head of the Iraqi Football Association. Uday didn't care about sports, but there was one thing he cared about: winning. If an athlete missed training, Uday's guards would drag them to his private prison inside the Olympic Committee building, a torture facility hidden behind the walls of a sports institution. Prisoners were locked in pitch-black cells barely the size of a phone booth. And when Uday discovered the internet, the first thing he did was search for new ways to torture people. One method he used was called the falaka, a metal frame that locked the victims' ankles in place while the soles of their feet were beaten until they couldn't walk.
They tie his leg by 2 wooden sticks and lift it that level and beat him by. This had been done by Uday himself.
He even got hold of a medieval torture device and kept it inside the building. Athletes who underperformed were locked inside it.
They use special sticks, electric sticks, pipes filled with stones. You have no idea how brutal these guys are.
Uday knew he could get away with all of this as long as his father was in charge. But all that violence came with a price. Every man he hurt or humiliated was one more enemy, and the more dangerous his life became, the more Uday wanted someone else to live it for him. By the late 1980s, Uday's reputation made him a walking target. Ba'athist rivals, Kurdish fighters, people he'd personally wronged. The list of enemies was long and getting longer. Saddam had been using body doubles for years to protect himself. Now Uday wanted one too. Not just for safety, but because he didn't want to waste his time on the boring parts of being powerful. In September 1987, a 23-year-old lieutenant named Latif Yahya was fighting on the front lines of the Iran-Iraq War when his commanding officer got a letter. Latif had 72 hours to report to a presidential palace in Baghdad. When he got there, he was brought face to face with Uday Hussein. The reason was almost absurd. Years earlier, when they were both schoolboys, their classmates used to joke about how much they looked alike. Uday never forgot. He told Latif he wanted him to become his fidai. In Arabic, it means body double, but the more accurate translation is bullet catcher. Latif said no. He was immediately thrown into solitary confinement. The walls of his cell were painted red. He later said it was designed to remind you of blood. After days of isolation and threats against his family, Latif gave in. From that point on, Latif Yahya no longer existed.
And he has long had a body double trained to take a bullet for him.
Were you a good double? I was good double for bad person.
Latif went through cosmetic surgery and dental work to make the resemblance near perfect.
He was given the same French suits, aftershave, and even had plastic surgery on his chin to make him a convincing Uday. Yahya on the left, Uday on the right. They even had the same barber.
Then 6 months of training. He had to learn Uday's walk, his speech patterns, the way he held his head, even the way he twirled a gun. Every mistake was met with a beating. He was forced to watch over 30 films of real torture sessions and hours of recordings of Uday's behavior until he could mimic every mannerism. The final test was meeting with Saddam himself. Only after Saddam couldn't tell the difference did Latif start making public appearances. His first assignment was a football match at Baghdad's People's Stadium. He waved to thousands of fans and handed out medals to athletes. The real Uday was somewhere in a palace. After that, it only got worse. Latif was sent to public conferences, state functions, military events. Anything dangerous or boring, Latif handled it. During the 1990 invasion of Kuwait, the real Uday stayed in Baghdad while Latif was shipped to Basra, an active war zone, to rally Republican Guard troops. This became his life. Uday threw parties, assaulted women, and did whatever he wanted inside his fortified compounds. Latif did the dangerous work of being Uday in public. He says he survived 11 assassination attempts. He was wounded 9 times. Every single bullet was meant for someone else. But the danger outside wasn't even the worst part. When Latif wasn't playing Uday in public, he was trapped inside Uday's world in private, forced to witness things behind closed doors that no one was ever supposed to talk about. The breaking point came when Uday ordered him to execute the father of a young woman Uday had assaulted, a former beauty queen. Latif refused, and in front of Uday and the father, he turned the knife on himself. Uday was apparently so shocked that he never asked Latif to kill anyone again. In late 1991, Latif escaped. He fled north into Kurdish territory where Peshmerga fighters grabbed him, convinced he was the real Uday. When they realized he wasn't, he was let go. He made it to Austria by 1992. For Latif, it was finally over. No more being Uday in multiple places at once. Most of us will never know stakes like that, but anyone who runs a business knows what it feels like to be pulled in every direction. Sales in one place, accounting somewhere else, and somehow all of it still lands on you. Now that's exactly the kind of headache today's sponsor, Odoo, was built to solve. Odoo is an all-in-one business management platform that brings together more than 45 easy-to-use applications. Whether you're handling sales, invoicing, project management, inventory, accounting, or even building your website, Odoo keeps everything connected in one central place. Instead of juggling separate tools or dealing with messy integrations, Odoo gives you one unified system where every app works smoothly with the next. Once you make a sale on your e-commerce store, the invoice is automatically created and your stock is updated in your inventory, so you always get a real-time view of your business in one place. And it doesn't feel complicated. The interface is clean and easy to use, whether you're a seasoned manager or someone trying business software for the first time. As your business grows, Odoo grows with you. You can start with just what you need and add more apps as you expand. And the best part? You can get started with Odoo for free today. And as your business scales, access the full suite for just $24.90 per user per month. Latif had escaped Uday's world, but the people still inside it were about to be torn apart. And for once, it wasn't Uday who lit the fuse, it was his father. In 1986, Saddam made a decision that cracked open a fault line inside the Hussein family. While still married to Uday's mother, he secretly married a woman named Samira Shabandar. The ceremony was held at one of his private palaces. Uday's mother didn't find out until the rumors reached her through Baghdad's elite circles. Uday was furious. This wasn't just disrespect to his mother, it was a threat. If Saddam had children with his new wife, Uday's position as heir could be challenged. But going after his father meant risking his own life, so Uday's anger just sat there, building, waiting for someone else to take the blame. 2 years later, he found his target. In October 1988, a party was held in honor of Suzanne Mubarak, wife of the Egyptian president. Hundreds of diplomats and high-profile guests were there. Among them was a man named Kamel Hana Jejo. He was Saddam's personal valet, food taster, and one of his closest confidants. More importantly, Jejo was rumored to be the person who introduced Saddam to Samira. Whether that was true or not didn't matter to Uday. He walked up to Jejo at the buffet table, in front of everyone. After a few words, Uday attacked him, first with a crystal ashtray, then with a knife he grabbed from the kitchen. The room went silent. Everybody watched, nobody tried to stop it. By the time Uday stopped, Jejo was dead. Jejo had no military rank, no political power, but this time Saddam couldn't look the other way. His son had committed murder in front of international diplomats. For the first time in his life, Uday faced real consequences. Saddam had him arrested, sentenced to death, locked him in a cell, and gave him nothing but water for 8 days. When Uday tried to hit a guard, the other guards beat him. Saddam wanted to make the message clear: your power is gone. Uday was desperate. He wrote to his mother, "Your man is going to kill me. Find someone who can release me from this torture. I'll either die or I'll go crazy." He stayed locked up for about 3 months. Then King Hussein of Jordan stepped in and convinced Saddam to ease the sentence. But Saddam wasn't done punishing him. He exiled Uday to Switzerland, making him an assistant to the Iraqi ambassador in Geneva. A public message to the world that even his own son wasn't above the law. The Swiss probably wished he'd stayed in Iraq. Uday was arrested multiple times for carrying illegal weapons. He cracked a teenager's skull open with a hammer in a nightclub fight. After years of putting up with him because of his diplomatic status, Switzerland kicked him out. Uday came back to Iraq in the summer of 1990. Back home, he took control of newspapers, TV channels, and radio stations, turning them into propaganda machines for his father. But his relationship with Saddam was still broken. His behavior was an open secret among diplomats, and he'd become a walking embarrassment. Nobody in the Iraqi government saw Uday as the heir anymore. Then, a war broke out, and Uday saw his chance to get back in. In August 1990, Saddam invaded Kuwait for its oil. The whole world condemned it. The US built a coalition to push Iraq back. Some of Saddam's own officials started to doubt whether this was a fight they could win. Uday didn't doubt anything. He saw opportunity. While others hesitated, Uday organized massive rallies, thousands chanting Saddam's name. He went on state television praising his father. He produced propaganda celebrating what he'd called the liberation of Kuwait.
حاط اسم عدي وحاط اسم قصي هذه بعد.
Behind the scenes, he personally led a looting operation in Kuwait City. He stole an estimated tens of millions of dollars worth of luxury cars, gold, medical supplies, and stashed it all inside the Olympic Committee building. By February 1991, the coalition crushed Iraq's forces. Saddam was forced to pull out of Kuwait. The sanctions that followed destroyed the economy, making Iraqi currency nearly worthless. Medicine and food became luxuries most people couldn't afford.
Ordinary Iraqis are suffering incredible
For
hardship.
ordinary Iraqis, just surviving each day became a form of suffering. For Uday, things had never been better. The stuff he'd stolen from Kuwait meant his family could keep living like kings while the rest of the country starved. And the thing that mattered most to Saddam? Uday had stayed. While others ran or defected, he stood by his father. Uday understood something about Saddam's world. Loyalty was the only currency that mattered. It didn't matter what you'd done or how badly you'd embarrassed the family. If you proved your loyalty, you'd always have a seat at the table. So when Uday regained his status as heir after the war, he didn't calm down, he got worse. After the Gulf War, Iraq was isolated. The economy was in ruins, the country was falling apart. In the south, the Shia population tried to rise up against Saddam. By some estimates, as many as 100,000 people were killed. Survivors were rounded up, thrown into detention centers in Baghdad, and kept as prisoners. A warning to anyone thinking about trying again. Uday didn't think the warning was clear enough. One day, he showed up at a detention center unannounced. Guards dragged prisoners out of their cells and lined them up. Uday walked down the line pointing, "You. You. Not you. You." The ones he picked were marched to the wall and shot. The rest had to stand there and watch. When the shooting stopped, Uday walked up to one of the surviving prisoners, picked a construction power drill, held it against the man's head, and killed him in front of everyone. Afterwards, he ordered the survivors to be locked in cells right next to the bodies. He left them there for days, then he let them go. Not out of mercy, he wanted them to go back to their communities and spread the word. But Uday didn't just use violence to send messages, he used it to motivate. In 1994, the Iraqi football team lost a qualifying match for the World Cup. The next day, Uday called the players to the Olympic Committee building. They were forced to kick a concrete ball for hours. Then his guards beat them, shaved their heads, and subjected them to electric shocks. Uday watched the whole thing. He kept a written scorecard for the national team, detailed notes on exactly how many times each player should be beaten on the soles of his feet after a bad game. And when a match was slipping away, he'd call the dressing room at halftime, threatening to cut off the players' legs and feed them to his dogs if they lost.
Majid and his teammates were eventually driven to one of Uday's farms, where they had their heads shaved, worked 12-hour days, and slept with the animals.
Well, they took me straight away to the prison, and every single day I've been beaten my feet, and 20 a day, and I'm not allowed to eat or drink, just a glass of water and a piece of bread.
We believe that hundreds of athletes have been tortured and as many as 50 athletes have been killed.
Over the years, more than 50 athletes and sports figures are believed to have been tortured, jailed, or killed on his orders, some simply for losing a match. But the worst side of Uday came out when he wanted to have a good time. He threw parties at his private boat club where every guest had to keep up with his drinking. He'd invented his own cocktail named after him: whiskey, brandy, vodka, cognac, and beer all mixed into a single glass. Anyone who passed out would get thrown into a cage with his pet monkey, Louisa. And when he got bored of that, he'd fire his AK-47 over the heads of the guests while they danced. They kept dancing, because stopping meant giving Uday a reason to aim lower. But Uday's excesses weren't limited to his parties. By the mid-1990s, he had built himself an empire that rivaled some small countries. He owned hundreds of luxury cars, Ferraris, Porsches, Lamborghinis, Rolls-Royces, entire underground garages filled with them. He reportedly had thousands of suits, and every suit had to match the color of whichever car he was driving that day. At one point, after Uday shot and wounded Saddam's own half-brother during a dinner party in Tikrit, Saddam tried a different kind of punishment. He went to Uday's garages and had every car burned to the ground, hundreds of them gone. Saddam later told his guards about it, laughing as he described watching the flames. It didn't work. Uday just started collecting again. Inside his palace in Baghdad, American soldiers would later find a private zoo stocked with lions, cheetahs, and a bear. $1 million worth of liquor and fine wine, Cuban cigars with his name printed on them, and a collection of gold-plated guns. He called himself Abu Sarhan, Arabic for Father of the Wolf. On top of that, he ran a business empire, a fast food chain called Super Chicken, an ice cream company called The Wave, newspapers, TV channels, and Iraq's most popular radio station, the only one that played Western music. But the real money came from the black market. While international sanctions were strangling Iraq's economy, Uday was smuggling oil, cigarettes, and alcohol across the border and selling them at massive markups. The rules that were supposed to contain his father's regime, Uday treated them like a business opportunity, and he was a massive Star Wars fan. When he created the Fedayeen Saddam, his personal paramilitary militia, the first thing he did was design their uniforms to look like Darth Vader. Black shirts, black ski masks, and black helmets shaped to resemble the Sith Lord. Thousands of young recruits marching through Iraq dressed like characters from a science fiction movie, answering to a man who genuinely saw himself as untouchable. But there was something Uday liked more than his cars, his empire, or his militia. He used to cruise through Baghdad, hotels, nightclubs, and even an ice cream shop in one of the richest neighborhoods, looking for women. And when he wanted one, his guards would grab her and take her to one of his mansions. One time, he spotted a woman at a hotel in Baghdad. She was there on her honeymoon. His guards grabbed the husband and held him in a separate room. Uday took the bride. The husband could hear her screaming through the walls. When it was over, the woman ran out, found a balcony, and jumped. By 1995, Uday was the second most powerful man in Iraq. He had his own militia, his own business empire, and complete immunity for anything he did. But his biggest threat wasn't going to come from enemies outside. It was already inside his own family. Hussein Kamel was Iraq's Minister of Industry and Military Industrialization. He oversaw the chemical weapons, the biological weapons, the arms purchases, the secret facilities. He was one of the most powerful men in the country. And he was married to Saddam's daughter, Ragad. Family and politics all wrapped into one. For Uday, that made Kamel a direct threat to the one thing he wanted most, the succession. But Uday couldn't just get rid of someone that close to Saddam without destroying his own position, so he waited. Turns out, he didn't have to do anything. Kamel destroyed himself. Kamel was tired of the regime. He thought Iraq had been fighting for too long. The debt was enormous, and he knew Saddam would always favor his own blood over someone who had married in. So, on the night of August 7th, 1995, he made a run for it. He crossed the desert into Jordan in a convoy of luxury vehicles. His brother, a colonel who commanded Iraq's special forces, came with him. Both brothers were married to Saddam's daughters. Both wives and their children went too. Once they were safe in Jordan's royal palace, Kamel went to public. He gave interviews calling Saddam a tyrant and cooperated with UN weapon inspectors and American intelligence. But he overplayed his hand. He approached Iraq's exiled opposition leaders claiming he could save the country. They thought he was delusional. Jordan's king distanced himself. Within months, Kamel had no allies left. Uday saw his opening. If he could convince the brothers to come back, he'd look like the loyal son who brought the traitors home. He fled to Jordan and tried to talk Kamel into returning. Kamel refused. But Saddam's wife took a different approach. She called her daughters directly, pressured them to convince their husbands to come home, promised that if they were executed, both women would kill themselves. Exhausted and out of options, Kamel wrote to Saddam asking to return. On February 20th, 1996, both brothers and their families crossed back into Iraq. Saddam demanded an immediate divorce. After 2 days of pressure, the Kamel brothers signed the papers. 1 day later, on February 23rd, the Iraqi news agency announced that both brothers, their father, and a younger sibling had died in a gun battle with clan members at their home. The ex-wives survived, despite their promises. Uday's biggest rival was gone, but here's the thing he didn't see coming. The person Saddam trusted to handle the whole thing, the return, the divorce, the executions, wasn't Uday, it was Qusay. The opportunity Uday had tried to create for himself had been handled by his younger brother. For the first time, watching someone die didn't make Uday feel powerful, it made him feel terrified. He'd just watched his own father kill family members without blinking, and he realized he could be next. He barricaded himself inside his mansion, positioned armed guards everywhere, and refused to see his father. He slept with a gun under his pillow for weeks. Eventually, Qusay came to see him personally, told him Saddam had no plans to hurt him. Uday believed him and slowly went back to normal. But just a few months later, the thing he'd been afraid of finally caught up with him. December 12, 1996. Uday was driving through Baghdad's Mansour district with one of his closest friends, Ali al-Sahir. Same route as always, cruising past the Al-Ruwad ice cream shop, scanning the streets for women. He had no idea what was waiting for him. 4 gunmen positioned along Mansour Street, one outside a nearby restaurant setting up a crossfire. Uday was hit by as many as 17 bullets. He passed out instantly and the car crashed. An off-duty officer happened to be nearby. He heard the shots and jumped into the fight, holding the attackers off long enough for Uday's bodyguards to show up. Ali al-Sahir, despite being hurt himself, dragged himself into the driver's seat and raced Uday to the hospital. By the time they got there, Uday had lost so much blood his skin was turning gray. Doctors worked on him through the night. The attack didn't kill Uday, but it killed the version of him that had existed before. Blood loss caused permanent spine damage. One side of his body was partly paralyzed. Surgeons never removed 2 of the bullets lodged in his spine, and he carried an 8-inch metal bar in one leg. He'd need a cane to walk for the rest of his life. But the wound that hurt most wasn't physical. It was his image. The powerful, the invincible, the fear he'd built his entire identity around. All of it cracked. And while Uday was lying in that hospital bed, everything he'd spent his whole life chasing started slipping away. Saddam didn't wait for Uday to heal. He gave Qusay command of Iraq's elite Republican Guard, then control of all intelligence agencies, then the role of personal protector of the presidency. And the final blow? Saddam officially named Qusay as the one who would take over if anything happened to him. The succession fight was over. Qusay won. Uday refused to accept it. He still controlled most of Iraq's media, and he used it. He ordered that Qusay stay invisible to the public. Anyone who published a photo of Qusay was fired, or worse, they disappeared. Meanwhile, he ran propaganda campaigns promoting himself as the true face of Iraq. But his ugliest act of revenge went after Qusay personally. If any woman was known to be involved with Qusay, Uday's bodyguards would kidnap her and bring her to one of his mansions. He'd assault her, then mark her with a heated iron, branding her as his property. Even after all this, the paralysis, the succession loss, the enemies piling up, Uday was still untouchable inside Iraq. He kept assaulting women at their own weddings. He kidnapped underage girls. And he ordered the execution of Ali al-Sahir, the same friend who saved his life by driving him to the hospital that night. Ali's crime? He tried to leave the country. The man who owed Ali everything repaid him with a death sentence. But across the ocean, something was building. Something that would bring down not just Uday, but the entire empire that had protected him. March 19th, 2003. The United States launched Operation Iraqi Freedom. Iraq's military, already hollowed out by years of sanctions, didn't stand a chance. Within a month, Baghdad fell. While American soldiers searched for Saddam, Uday's last act inside the capital was pure spite. He ordered his guards to pour gasoline on his entire car collection, hundreds of Ferraris, Porsches, Lamborghinis, all of it, and set them on fire. If he couldn't have them, nobody would. Then he met up with Qusay, the brother he'd spent years trying to destroy, and the two of them disappeared into a network of safe houses across northern Iraq. The US put a bounty on their heads, $15 million for Uday, $15 million for Qusay, $30 million total, dead or alive. The mission to take them had a code name, Operation Tapeworm. For weeks, American forces chased them from one location to the next. Every time they got close, the brothers were already gone. Their strategy was simple. Trust only the most loyal people in your father's circle. Keep moving, don't stop. It worked. Until one of those loyal people decided the money was worth more than his loyalty. On the night of July 21st, 2003, a man walked into the 101st Airborne Base in Mosul. He told the officers he knew exactly where Uday and Qusay were hiding. They'd heard tips like this before. Most of them were garbage, but this man was different. He knew the brothers' habits, their routines, their exact location, because he was the one who'd been hiding them in his own house. The next morning, American forces surrounded a mansion in Mosul's Al-Fala neighborhood. The perimeter stretched 3 full city blocks. They called out, "This is the United States Army. The house is surrounded. You have no escape. Surrender now." The brothers chose to fight. Inside the mansion were Uday, Qusay, Qusay's 14-year-old son Mustafa, and a bodyguard. They'd fortified the place with barricades and stockpiled weapons, assault rifles, ammunition, grenade launchers. What followed was 4 hours of gunfire. The mansion's thick stone walls held up against small arms, heavy machine guns, even Apache attack helicopters. Around 1 p.m., commanders gave the green light for TOW missiles, anti-tank weapons, designed to punch through armored vehicles. The missiles tore through the front of the house. When troops finally entered, they found all 4 dead inside. The bodies recovered were so badly damaged that the military had to use dental records and x-rays to confirm identities. 4 bodies: Uday, Qusay, Mustafa, Qusay's teenage son, and a bodyguard. The next day, the US government made it official. Uday Hussein was dead.